There are many good points in the reading this week regarding Michael Porter's strategy ideas. Most of those particular ideas will not be covered in this presentation, but here we just want to look at generic strategies as one of his major landmark ideas. This does not mean that the other ideas in the second half of the Porter book are unimportant. You should have finished reading it and garnered an excellent perspective on strategy and strategic management. Remember, it's not the kind of information that you should try to memorize in preparation for an exam. Instead, you should have gleaned some valuable general insights. With that in mind, one of the discussion questions will ask you which insights you were able to draw from the reading, and the epilogue is provided as a prompt to do that. One of Michael Porter's key ideas is generic strategies. Ultimately, those boil down to cost and differentiation, but over time, various gradations have been added. And as indicated here, again, we will do a related exercise in the discussion forum. This quote relates to both competence and advantage. As you may know, Jimmy Johnson is a former football coach who won both a college championship and a Super Bowl in the pros. If you look at this slide from the bottom up, note that most business-level strategy has to do with specific product markets, so it does not involve the entire company unless the company produces a product for only one particular market. Strategies involving the entire company across different product or service lines are usually known as corporate strategies. In any case, Porter promoted the idea of generic strategies, or what we call business-level strategies. The strategies focus on what differentiates the company's product in terms of cost or different features. And this also relates to the value chain because one of the issues in creating advantages is based upon performing activities differently from your competitors, or actually performing different activities relative to your competitors, all within your value chain. This slide is one depiction of different generic strategies. You will notice that there are actually 5 of them shown here, but you should also notice that ultimately the words cost or differentiation appear in each of the strategies. Also consider the 2 dimensions. Vertically, the dimension illustrates the target market, and horizontally, it shows competitive advantage based on cost or differentiation. The next few slides have numerous statements which are also shown on a one-page handout. See the link to your left in Blackboard. So the easiest way to keep track of all this information is on that one handout sheet. In any case, we have factors that drive the cost of something which are listed here. Next, we have the notion of how to obtain a cost advantage by controlling and/or reconfiguring things within the value chain. And if you think back to the value chain, you can start asking specific questions about how an activity can be performed in various ways. One of the issues with a cost leadership strategy is that technology can change quickly and cause problems. Competitors can imitate what you are doing, and if you are too focused on efficiency, you may not keep up with customer desires in the sense that customers may be willing to pay for something that is better when they want it. Next, we look at differentiation, and here are the factors driving differentiation. There are less of them simply because they are more general in their coverage. Differentiation is also addressed by controlling the value chain according to differentiation drivers. In the case of differentiation, producers assume risk because customers will decide whether or not the differential is actually worth paying for. There's also the risk of counterfeit goods on the market. Focus strategies can be driven by the existence of small market niches, companies being unable to compete in the broader market, being able to serve a narrow market niche more efficiently, and the capability to focus on certain value chain activities better than other firms. On the risk side, competitors might be able to do what you are doing. Large competitors might be able to do better than what you can do given their larger resources. And it's also the case that the niche could disappear. Companies that try to engage in both cost and differentiation may excel because they can adapt, learn new technologies, leverage the capabilities, and generate good returns because they provide 2 types of value to the customer. In contrast, the risks are that the company cannot achieve both the lowest cost and be the most differentiated in the market simultaneously, which can leave a consumer unclear about that company's role in the market. This is the discussion question task for Lesson 5. Again, reference the handout provided in the Handouts link in Blackboard on the left-hand side. Next, we'll consider the issue of core competencies and distinctiveness. This is the prevailing wisdom in business. As you might already be aware, Wall Street often votes with their dollars against companies who become too diversified and spread too thin, with the realization that no one can stay focused on what they do best when they are doing too much. So there's a limit to how thin you can spread yourself. You're probably already familiar with SWOT analysis from other courses, but if not, this video is available in the video link on the left-hand menu in Blackboard. SWOT analysis helps us to see what our resources are relative to our environmental position. This slide emphasizes the issue of capability versus choice. We want to ensure we have the capability to go in the direction we choose. Two very important words in this process are core and distinctive. There are many competencies, but it is the core competence that's important here since it is critical to company success. It becomes the driver of competitive capability. In slight contrast, a distinctive competence is differentiated as something that is done better than one's competition. Here are a few examples of distinctive competencies existing in major corporations. Finally, it's important to consider how all of this leads toward competitive advantage, and here's a schematic showing those relationships. On the left side, look at the company's competencies and ask the question whether or not they are valuable or unique. If so, that valuable competence is a core. If it is a unique competence, it's distinctive. Next, these lead to competitive advantage, and the following question is asked: whether that advantage is difficult or costly to imitate. If it is, that is considered to be sustainable competitive advantage. The caution here is to both pay attention to change and also pay attention to what doesn't change. Core competencies could turn into core rigidities that result in inertia and entropy. Here's an interesting quote from Bill Gates that captures this idea. It was during the glory years of IBM, its years of greatest profit and greatest admiration, that it was making the mistakes that sowed the billions of dollars of losses that came later. This is similar to my comments earlier in this term about the Bethlehem Steel Company. As of this writing in fall 2018, IBM's share price is at about 120. The 52-week high is 171, and IBM had broken 200 in the past few years. Of course, Bill Gates' quote is actually quite a few years old. In around 2002, IBM stock was about 108, and then it dropped as low as 67. So Bill Gates is referring to problems that occurred quite some time ago. Given that other tech stocks have risen significantly over the past decade, IBM clearly has not been in a position to take advantage of that sector's growth.